And here, was this Mr. Hoover? Who's the other attorney?
Ladies and gentlemen, Tyrone Taylor didn't rape Jordan Adams. Tyrone Taylor didn't force himself on Jordan Adams. Tyrone Taylor didn't force Jordan Adams into prostitution. Tyrone Taylor is not guilty of what the state has charged him. Now, this case starts with Jordan Adams way before January 11th and January 12th. This actually starts a couple months earlier in Cobb County. You're going to hear evidence and testimony that Jordan Adams was found under the influence of cocaine, driving a vehicle with her daughter in the back seat. She was arrested for that. Because she was arrested, DFACS gave custody of her daughter to her mother. You're also going to hear evidence that while Jordan Adams was out with that case pending, she stayed in the house with her parents and her daughter. Her father found a syringe full of drugs in the same house her daughter was in. You're going to hear evidence that because she, once again, endangered the life of her daughter, her father kicked her out of the house. Fast forward to January 11th. A couple months later, Jordan Adams happens to be at a gas station. Supposedly, she's telling people that she's going to the airport because she doesn't have.
This is going to be messy.
She goes to the gas station, runs into Tyrone Taylor. Goes up to Tyrone, hey, can you give me a couple bucks so I can get to the airport? Tyrone says, yes, I will help you out. Gives her a couple dollars. Tyrone says, hey, can I have your phone number? Jordan says, yes. Willingly gave Tyrone her phone number after he gave her a couple dollars. Fast forward a couple hours, Tyrone's texting her, hey, what's up? Hey, what are you doing? Where you at? Jordan Adams says, I can't talk right now because I don't have a place to stay. I'm a little busy. I don't have a place to stay. So Tyrone goes, hey, if you need some help, you can come stay with us for a little while. Jordan Adams says, okay, tells Tyrone where she is. Tyrone doesn't have a car of his own at the time, so he sends a friend to pick her up. Jordan Adams willingly gets into this vehicle. No one forced her to. Jordan Adams and the friend drives Jordan Adams to the Airway Hotel where Tyrone's staying. Jordan Adams willingly gets out of the vehicle. No one forced her to. Jordan Adams goes up to the door, knocks on it, and willingly goes into Tyrone's room. No one forced her to. Now, once in the room, drugs are there. Everyone's, or not everyone, people are doing drugs, stuff is happening, but that's it. That's all we know as of right now. Fast forward, Jordan starts to tell this story about what happens in that room, and depending on who she's talking to, her story changes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear the evidence is going to show you that the very first person that Jordan was communicating with was her mother, via text message. The evidence is going to show you Jordan never said, hey mom, I'm being raped by two men, send help. You're never going to see evidence that says, hey mom, I'm being tortured and kidnapped by two men, this is where I am. Hey mom, I'm being held on my own, I have nowhere to go, nothing to do, please send help. What you're going to hear is Jordan said things like, don't call anyone because I'll go to jail. Or mom, I'm going to call a friend to come pick me up, I'll take care of that on my own. Or mom, don't say anything that's going to get me in trouble. The state wants you to believe that Tyrone Taylor and Mr. Gibson are raping Jordan Adams from 6 to 12 hours, torturing her, abusing her, kidnapped her, the very first person she talks to about this, and she basically says, don't call anyone because I'm going to get arrested. Fast forward to, January 12th when she's talking to officers. Second story. Second time she has an opportunity to say or to tell what actually happened. Now the evidence is going to show you that she tells officers, as soon as she walks into that room, Tyrone made her take a shower, and then the rape started happening immediately. She says Tyrone is the only one raping her, and basically for about 3 or 4 hours, it's Tyrone continuously. He would get up, he would stop for a minute, and then he'd go right back to her. First time she talks to an officer, that's what she says. Then she adds in, well, you know what? It happened up to about 3 a.m., then Mr. Gibson shows up. And now it's 2 men raping her from 3 a.m. till 9 a.m. the same morning. So with this story, she tells the cops that 2 men are brutally raping her, torturing her, physically holding her down to the point where she can't move or breathe. They're choking her to where she can't move or breathe. She is scratching them, she is fighting them, but she can't stop them. Sometimes both of them rape her together. Sometimes they rape her one by one. Sometimes they use condoms. Sometimes they didn't. And every time one of them would stop, they would give her cocaine. So ladies and gentlemen, the first time she talks to an officer, she says, 2 men raped me from 9 to 12 hours straight. They never really stopped because one of them were always doing something. But when one would pause, I would have cocaine. So she's getting raped, tortured, and beaten, and drugged for 9 to 12 hours straight. A month later, she's talking to other officers. This time, she tells officers, well, when I got to the room, I took a shower. Tyrone didn't rape me for the first few hours. The rape didn't start until 3 a.m. when Mr. Gibson shows up. The story's already starting to change again. This time, she goes on to say, yes, they both raped me for all this time. They drugged me the entire time. I couldn't do anything about it. But I was scratching them. I was doing all that, but I couldn't do anything else about it. The first time they talked to the officers, Jordan Adams said, well, all I saw was cocaine. They kept giving me cocaine. The second time they talked to the officers, Jordan Adams, oh no, there was cocaine, there was heroin, there was marijuana, there was vodka, there was tequila. We were doing everything. Her story completely changes every single time. What we do know at some point, Jordan is not in that room with Tyrone, she's not in that room with Mr. Gibson. Jordan, for 3 hours, let Jordan tell you, she is walking up and down the street from the hotel to the Citgo. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is why this is so important. While Jordan Adams was walking up and down the street from the Citgo, she was by herself. We have no idea where Mr. Gibson is because she kind of forgets about him and doesn't say anything, but she says Tyrone was in the hotel room. So Miss Adams is walking up and down the street by herself with a cell phone. She goes to the Citgo. We know the day before she was 100% okay with begging people for money so she can get help. But now, fast forward, she's been raped by 2 men she doesn't know for 6 to 12 hours, depending on who she's talking to. She goes to the Citgo. She doesn't tell anybody she got raped. She doesn't go inside to the employee and say, hey, I'm being raped. I've been kidnapped. They're forcing me to prostitute. She doesn't do that. For 3 hours, she's walking up and down that street, seeing people, communicating with people. She never once said, help me, I have been raped. I am being tortured. I've been kidnapped. They're forcing me into prostitution. Ladies and gentlemen, you're also going to hear that during this time, Jordan Adams runs into the hotel manager. The manager goes out, what are you doing? Why are you walking around? Jordan Adams does not say, help me, I have been raped. She does not say, help me, I have been kidnapped. I have been tortured. They are beating me and forcing me into prostitution. Jordan says, you know what, I'm going to go get some cigarettes. That's why I'm walking, so I'm just going to get cigarettes. Those 2 times, Jordan could have told somebody, I need help. Again, she had her cell phone this entire time. Tyrone's nowhere around. Mr. Gibson disappears. She never called a family member and said, hey mom, this is where I am, come get me. I've been raped. She never called a friend, hey, this is where I am, location drop, come get me, I've been raped. Citgo gas station, doesn't say a word. Hotel manager, doesn't say a word. Has a cell phone in her hand by herself, doesn't say a word. But the state wants you to believe that 2 men raped her for half a day, up to 12 hours, and she doesn't leave. And just to give you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see that the Citgo is half a mile away from the hotel, the Airway Motel, where it used to be. That's 2,640 feet. Takes about 10 minutes to walk there. You're also going to see the Atlanta Police Department Zone 4 precinct was 410 feet away from that hotel. It takes less than 2 minutes to get there. And what's crazy, to get to the Citgo from the hotel, she passed the precinct. So what that means, for 3 hours, she's walking up and down the street, past the police precinct, but she never goes in. She never goes up there and says, hey, these 2 guys are raping me. These 2 guys are forcing me into prostitution. These 2 guys are beating me with the butt of a gun, and they're torturing me, and I can't breathe. But the state wants you to believe that they raped her for 12 hours. She's by herself the entire time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're also going to hear testimony that allegedly Tyrone, after he forced her out into prostitution, said, if a man picks you up, take him to the Quality Inn. The Quality Inn is right next door to the precinct. Once again, she has an opportunity to go to another hotel to tell somebody, away from these 2 men, I'm getting raped and abused. She didn't do it. There's a reason she didn't do it, ladies and gentlemen. Because she got kicked out of her house while she was out with a pending case for drugs, doing drugs and making money the only way she knows how. That's why she was out there in Fulton Industrial. But the state wants you to believe that 2 men raped her, tortured her, beat her, choked her, suffocated her, crushed her body, and drugged her the entire time for 6 to 12 hours. Yet Jordan Adams still had enough power and strength and energy to walk up and down the street for 3 hours and didn't tell anybody about that. With a cell phone in her hand, nobody around. Now, at some point, an officer is going to ask her, well, why didn't you just walk away? Ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Adams' response to that is because they had my stuff in that room. The officer said, what was the stuff? Jordan Adams said, some of my clothes and a phone charger. The state wants you to believe that 2 men raped her, beat her, and tortured her, and kidnapped her, and forced her into prostitution for half a day, up to 12 hours, and the reason she didn't leave was because she didn't have all her clothes and a phone charger. Does that make sense? Absolutely not. Now, Mr. Matthews touched a little bit on DNA evidence, and he was right, the same kit was done, just like they swabbed Mr. GIBSON's mouth, they swabbed Mr. Taylor's mouth. What that means is they put a little swab in there, get your DNA, send it off to be tested. Ladies and gentlemen, through this investigation, officers also documented and collected gray bedding from the Airway Motel room, black bedding from the Airway Motel room, one used condom, swabs from both of their mouths, the rape kit. Now, with the rape kit, this is very important. They collected swabs from the vaginal vault, swabs from the vaginal vestibule, anus swabs, oral cavity swabs, inner thigh swabs.
And she said they didn't use protection.
Swabs, right side nail swabs, known head hair, left side nail clippings, and right side.
Have a good night, Tapiz. Thanks for hanging out.
They collected all of that evidence, and what you are not going to hear in this trial at all is that they can find Tyrone Taylor's DNA on him. A man that raped her, beat her, and tortured her for 6 to 12 hours, depending on what she says and who she's talking to, they won't find DNA. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to see any pictures in this trial to where she's beaten. You're not going to see pictures in this trial where she's scratched. She only got a hangnail at this point. She's not bleeding. She's not cut up. And she has the energy to walk around after being raped for half a day. You're not going to see any of that. On top of that, you're not going to have DNA that says this is Tyrone Taylor's, but they want you to believe the 2 men raped this young lady for 12 hours, abused her, kidnapped her,
Get a 12-hour
and forced her
counter
to walk the street. You've heard them present their case. I just ask you, please listen to everything presented to you in this courtroom for the next few weeks. Not only do you get to hear what our witnesses say, you actually get to see them when they say it. That's really important. Because I'm pretty sure Jordan Adams is going to get up here, she's going to start crying. You don't have to worry about just the crying. You get to see and hear everything that's going on. Before you make your final decision, please take your notes, write everything down, pay attention, focus on what you see and what you hear, and I'm confident you will find Tyrone Taylor not guilty of all the charges the state is putting on. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let me just say this to all of you. If at any point you have to use the restroom, don't sit there uncomfortable. Don't even let me know, okay? With that, how your first words?
State Paul,